No, they couldn't. We're awesome.
Yes, that is true.
We're taking over, and they want to be here before the revolution starts. That's how you don't end up against the wall.
Well, actually, this is the Girls Taking Over the World tour, and I always assumed actually that they already had. And if they hadn't, all you have to do is read Lisa Strada and understand that they could anytime they wanted.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get out of the way because actually Lara Zielin is the one who really put this together, and I'm so pleased that all these people came together.
It's actually Saundra.
Oh, you see, here I was giving a whole person all the time.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Hold on, I'm going to take a picture of you guys, because you guys always get to take pictures of us. I like that.
Oh, good idea.
Smile with your eyes.
Don't blink.
You have lipstick, right? No. And now I will turn this off so that I don't have an incident. Right. Okay.
So in any case, I'm going to get out of the way and turn you over to this absolutely wonderful group of people who have honored us here tonight. And once again, thank you for coming. Lara, you and your troops.
Yeah, all right, cool. Well, here we are. Thanks, everyone.
By the way, we're live tweeting, so if anybody wants to tweet, the hashtag is GTOTW, and we're live tweeting, so we'd appreciate it if we could get
And they're like, oh, yeah,
it's trending.
Yes. And another thing, we are actually live streaming to the internet right now, so if you don't want to be on the internet, just like
Don't
avoid
walk
this
in front of the
area.
camera.
But yeah, so not only do we have everybody here, which is fantastic, we also have everybody there, which is also fantastic. Hello, everybody! So why don't we start with Aimee, because she's brand new.
Yeah, let's start with me because I don't know.
Tell them your name and tell them
Hi,
how you
I'm Aimee Carter. I wrote the Goddess Test.
What's it about?
Mythology.
Of the
Is it a
Grecian
It's a kind of a sequel to those of Hades and Persephone, if you're familiar with that. Persephone left Hades, so he needs to find a new queen of the underworld in 100 years, or else he's going to fade away and then die, and it'll be terrible. So, yeah.
Aimee, because she's modest, I will say, lives in Michigan. She's a Michigan author.
Actually went to U of M.
She went to U of M. Go Blue! Oh, Ohio State over here.
Great. Sorry.
I went to DePaul with an L in Chicago.
Hey.
That's right. Yay! We are.
I won't offend anybody. I didn't go to college, so I'm everyone's.
Okay, I'm Lara, and my book is The Implosion of Aggie Winchester, and it's loosely inspired by real life events. I don't know if you guys know this part, but when I was in high school, my dad was my principal, and one year there was a homecoming scandal. And what happened was that there was this pregnant goth girl who got enough votes to be queen. And instead of putting her on the throne, the administration, of which my dad was a part, crowned the pretty, popular, athletic, beautiful, beautiful girl. And there was a huge uproar. And so in a small town in Wisconsin, this was big, big, big news. So we had, back in the day, I don't know if you guys remember Phil Donahue, but like back in the day, we had like Phil Donahue producers calling our house, which was like, oh my God, and Sally Jesse, Raphael. Okay, this girl, the pregnant goth girl was in 17, Time Magazine did a story. Like, this was huge for Wisconsin. And my dad actually lost his job over the whole thing. And so in the process of kind of like coming to terms with the story and, you know, having these like really deep heart-to-hearts with my dad, like, what happened? What were you thinking? Like, that's kind of where Aggie sort of came from. But this is fiction.
They changed all the names.
Yeah. Lara Zielin is the main character.
Terrible noise with this. I already apologize. My name is Saundra Mitchell. I'm the author of Shadow Summer, which is hiding down over there.
How close? How closer?
Oh, Father. And your mother.
newest book, The Vespertine, and it is a Gothic novel. It is about Amelia Vandenbroek, who lives in very rural Maine and goes to summer with her cousin in Baltimore for the sole purpose of finding a husband. So she actually, instead of finding a husband, finds a completely inappropriate boyfriend who sells himself for a living. It's not like that. He sells his Friday nights and goes and sits at dinners with the Victorians, who felt it was far too unlucky to have 13 guests. So they come up short with a guest, and so you hire a 14th. But she also discovers that she can see the future in the fires of sunset. And instead of everything going like to hell, initially, they actually have a lot of fun with it. It makes the girls very popular. Spiritualism was very popular during the time period, and so they're kind of the toast of the town, and they have their naughty romance that they're not supposed to be having, and they have all of this power that women aren't usually having in this time period. And unfortunately, once Amelia starts to see things that are less than pleasant, she starts to get blamed for the things that she sees. So it's a book about a lot of things, and I like to talk about the cute boy, but the cute boy is probably actually only in about 5 scenes. This book is actually about Amelia and her best friend Zora, and their circle of friends, and what it is to be girls and girls together, and the choices that they get to make, within the structure of their very strict society, and being able to see the future was a way for them to basically break free and rebel with permission. And so that's what my book is about. And I'm going to give you to Rhonda.
We have a mic.
Yeah, okay.
You guys get to hold that one. My name is Rhonda, and I'm an alcoholic. This is actually vodka. I'm just kidding. Okay, anyway, so as you guys can tell, I'm totally serious. My name is Rhonda Stapleton, and I am the author of the Stupid Cupid trilogy. This is the first book, and Flirting with Disaster is the second book, and Pucker Up is the third book. And they're all about this girl. Her name is Felicity, and she becomes a Cupid for her high school, and she has like a Palm Pilot kind of gadget that she uses to send love emails to students in her school. She matchmakes them, and then they fall in love instantly, and then the hope is that after the 2 weeks, when the spell wears off, they'll be together, and it's all brilliant, but she's really terrible at it. And in the second book, she accidentally makes the entire school fall in love with the guy she's in love with. So teachers, students, the janitor, everyone's like chasing this guy's tail, and he can't shake them off. And then they end up becoming the dreaded F word, friends. So it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun writing this book, and it's very serious, and there are no sparkle vampires in it.
I don't have sparkle vampires, but I do have werewolves and sparkly covers. So my name's close enough. My name's Christine Johnson, and my first book was Claire de Lune, which you may know by a different cover if you've read it before, but it just came out in paperback in this beautiful sparkly white cover, which I love. And my new book, which is not even out for another 2.5 weeks, but my publicist jumped through hoops to get it here early, is Nocturne, which is the sequel. And apparently they're called the Claire de Lune novels, which I didn't really know until I got my new covers. And the Claire de Lune novels are about a girl named Claire who discovers on her 16th birthday that she is the latest in a long line of an all-female werewolf species. And the first novel, Claire de Lune, sort of covers her journey as she learns to integrate this new sense of self, and how is she going to be a werewolf, and how is she going to be a normal teenage girl, while at the same time there's a rogue wolf who's killing humans in her town and endangering her pack. She also happens to fall in love with a human boy whose father is leading the hunt for the werewolves in her town, Hanover Falls, which, as you might imagine, is very complicated. And in the sequel, Nocturne, I like to say Claire de Lune is about Claire coming to terms with who she is, and Nocturne is about who she's going to be now that she's kind of figured out her self-identity. All right.
Yeah.
And I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana. I kind of didn't say that.
I'm from Cleveland.
I'm from Indianapolis too.
I couldn't remember if you guys did that or not. Anyway, all right. Hi.
All right. See, the thing is that we're very formal here tonight, so everybody pinkies up. Actually, we're not formal. What are the Mardi Gras beads?
They're behind you.
Awesome.
Yes, so if you flash us tonight, you do get your Mardi Gras beads.
actually, we're going to talk about our books, and we're going to talk about girls and girls being awesome and powerful and all. And I'm going to be confused by this.
We should get a boy to help.
Oh, with a joke.
Definitely.
But so once we're done yammering at you guys, we like to be yammered at back. We actually like to answer questions because, quite frankly, we've talked about our books
A lot at this point, so it's like, I don't know what anybody finds interesting. So we're gonna throw Mardi Gras beads at you as long as you ask us questions. So as you see, we have lots of beads. So if you want to walk out here totally decorated, this is gonna be your opportunity.
They're packed in.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're never
Pull
gonna
them all
get
out. Just throw them on the table.
There we go. All righty. Whee! All righty.
Oh, they're linked together.
Oh, okay. I want everybody to take a section.
Yeah. Here.
We also have prizes.
Yes, we do.
We have 2 gift baskets for people who want to put their name in, and how are we going to get these out? We might just,
I thought we had a basket.
we do have a basket that it's in use. So anyway,
This
we'll
is
get,
highly organized.
yeah, we'll get a drawing going, so I hope you guys will stick around for the drawing, because the gift baskets are kind of awesome.
But anyway, so now that we've shown you just how organized we are for our very first event on our tour, we did actually come out here with a theme because yes, we would love to sell you books. Please buy our books. But we're actually here because you have contemporary fantasy humor, and you have contemporary paranormal, and you have historical paranormal here, and you have straight up contemporary here, and you have kind of a paranormal sort of vibe, but it's mythological in nature. But in any case, the one thing that we do all have in common with our books is that our books are actually about girls. We all have romantic elements in our books, but these books are actually not about romances. These are books about girls learning to be women and learning to make decisions and choices of their own. And that's something that it's really fantastic for us in the young adult community because it's one of the very few careers where it's predominantly women. We have most of our editors are women, most of our agents are women. I think I'm the only one that has a male agent actually. So it's an interesting place to be because it's one of the few careers that women are doing right now, and it doesn't matter what we look like. It does not matter, if we are cute. It does not actually matter if, we have lovely dulcet voices and totally hot clothes. What actually matters is what we think about. And it is so sadly rare that this is one of the few careers where, we're women, writing about women's issues, not in a treatise kind of way, but we're writing women's stories that are often devalued and beautifully in YA. Women's stories are actually what are really carrying the genre. So that's why we're here, because this is, we were just talking about the different universities, and like I didn't go to high school, and we got, or I didn't go to high school, I didn't go to college, I didn't go to college. But and you majored in theater, didn't you?
No, I was an acting major for 2 years, and then I majored in the only thing that is less practical than both creative writing and theater put together, which was political science.
What did you major in?
English. I have a master's in English.
All right.
Anthropology.
Screenwriting.
So, we are coming from vastly different neighborhoods and vastly different educations, but we're all here, to talk about girls and strong girls and being strong girls. And, I would like to kick things off with, the fun thing with the Vespertine is that you can actually get away with talking about a lot of sex if you write about it in the 19th century. Because the thing is, really when we're writing about sex and when sex shows up in our books, we're not actually, writing as like, something hot and sexy. It's for fun. I mean, sometimes, you get a titillating scene, but it's actually an opportunity to talk about, the way girls are treated and the way girls choose the people around them, which is why it's one of the, Rhonda's books, that's all about finding love and finding relationships, but Felicity is not just, boys are so cute. She actually has, problems. She has friends that she's thinking about. And, we have this opportunity to come and talk to you about being strong young women. So I'm going to, now that we've talked about what the theme of the tour is, I mean, we really do, we want girls to take over the world because, we are finally in an exciting, privileged place to say, we're in a career where women are valued for what they think and what they say and not for how they look. And we want to share that with you in whatever way you want to share that with us. So I'm going to hand this to Lara.
I don't know how to follow that. I don't
Well,
even think this
I mean, I've read everything. Here's the thing, I've read everybody's books, but I don't want to be like, and so this is what her book is about and how we talk about girls. So I figure we can,
That's a good idea. I could do it or you could do it.
please.
Okay, here, I have it. I'll start next. Okay, so obviously, love and romance is a big theme in here. But one of the things I was very, very firm about was that this isn't just about love. It's also about her accepting who she is, accepting her flaws, accepting the things she's good at, but even more importantly, accepting and understanding and appreciating the friendships of other girls. She has 3 best friends, and throughout the books, they struggle with guys tearing them apart. They struggle with their own internal fights. I remember when I was in high school, I had a best friend, and we were like this. I mean, we were glued at the hips. You said our name together. There was no breath between it. That's how close we were. And to me, that friendship is what got me through high school, through all the guys, through the drama, through the crying, through nasty gossips, through everything like that. And so the importance of female friendship is something that I think girls need to understand and appreciate and foster more. Women understand each other in a way that men never can. Even if when you get married, when you move on and get older, you will have a husband. It's going to be awesome, but you know what? He's never going to understand you the way your girlfriends can. And I think all of that needs to start when you're young and need to learn how to appreciate and keep those friendships up. And that's one of the reasons stories like Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, Sex in the City, all of those things are so popular because they reinforce female community, and that's important to me. And I had a reviewer say she loved the fact that this story wasn't just about romance, it was about their friendship, and that was key to me. And one of the things about girls being strong is girls supporting other girls and learning how to accept each other for who you are, not letting guys get in the way of things, but being strong and staying strong together. So that was a big part of my trilogy that I made sure to focus on.
I can go. I had a lot of people talk about Claire as being a feminist book, and I didn't really realize it was. And I'm not really sure what that says about me, but I didn't set out to write some sort of feminist treatise. My father-in-law hates my novel. Yeah, seriously, I said, what? They worship a goddess, and they're all women, and it's all this feminist stuff. And I was like, okay, well, first of all, that's like really backward thinking. And the story came to me because I was looking for more conflict, and I wanted Claire to fall in love with a human guy, and it didn't make sense to me that a female werewolf would go for a human guy because that would be dumb. It would be so complicated. Why wouldn't you just date the next guy werewolf you liked? But if there weren't any guy werewolves, that would solve that problem. And then the rest of the world building really came out of that. It is an all-female pack because if it's all females, it's all females. They worship a goddess because when it came time to insert, their mythology and their religion, why would an all-female species worship a male god? That made no sense. I when I look back on it, or when people talk to me about the novel through that lens, I see it and I see that it's in there. And I hope it says something positive about my upbringing, that it just came out without me going, I'm gonna write a book about strong, I didn't want to read a book, and I didn't want to write a book about a girl who relied on men, and it didn't occur to me that that was feminist. So I hope that says that maybe things are changing. Maybe they're not changing fast enough, but so that's how strong girls fit into my book. It didn't occur to me that they wouldn't be. So
It's actually a big step. I mean, because you have lots of.
And I would like girls to take that away from the books, that it would not occur to them that they should not be strong.
It's kind of like you know those movies where the guy gets cancer and then, or no, the girl gets cancer and then promptly dies, having left the man a better man, so that he then doesn't actually have any standards that he has to live up to or continue to be a good or decent person. You actually get a lot of that in fiction as well, because it's so ingrained into the culture that, it is ennobling for a woman to better a man. And that's one of the things that I do really like about all the books on this table is, like, you've got women with strong friendships, and you have women that have male friends and boyfriends and romantic relationships with men and women. But it's actually, these are not books that are about, like, coupling up and making other people better. These are all books about girls becoming better people in and of themselves.
Or better werewolves.
Yeah.
Well, with Aggie, I also I didn't set out to write any kind of feminist book, but with Aggie is certainly one of my strongest characters that I've ever written, and I think what I love about her the most and what I respect about Aggie's journey is that she screws up so much, and she's really pissed off at everybody, and I'm like, oh my god, do I have like that much anger in me and I just don't know it, and I wrote it on the page and I'm really secretly this really angry person, and I hope not.
You are.
Shut up.
There goes the sisterhood.
These hands are traveling away from me. So Aggie's so angry and she makes these really bad choices, actually, but what I think is so redeemable about YA, the genre, is that these girls often in these books fall down and fall down and fall down, and they keep getting back up over and over again. And I think about the books that inspired me when I was little and or at this age, and it was people who really were like working through some stuff and weren't afraid to grow and weren't afraid to change. And I think that Aggie does that. I think today it's like the only way sometimes girls think that they can change is by getting a boob job or by getting Botox or by landing a rich man, and that's not how we should be changing as a culture, especially women. So anyway, Aggie's angry, but she doesn't stay angry.
Well, we all know how good I am about talking about my book.
That's all right. We'll ease you into it.
Thank
Go.
you.
No.
Well, the main relationship in the Goddess Test is actually between Kate, the protagonist, and her mother, who's dying of cancer. And they're very, very tight-knit. They're the only family they have. And the reason that Kate goes into this test is because, well, first of all, she does it to save a girl who hasn't exactly been nice to her, but you've read the book. Maybe you can talk about it.
I cried when I read it.
Oh, really?
I did. I bought it on my Kindle and I was like, the mother-daughter relationship is so amazing. Like, sometimes you read books and it's like, it's complicated. It's realistic. There are flaws. The mother is overprotective. The daughter, is struggling against trying to be her own person. But in the end, they have such a deep love for each other that resonates. And as you know, she's dying. It's heartbreaking to read these scenes. It's bittersweet because, the daughter is desperately trying to clamor for more time with her mom. And she's getting time that she didn't know she was going to have, and the way she values it, it really stirred me. I love that part of the book.
Thank you.
I know, it's really moving. I was very moved.
Thank you. No, I don't know what to say.
I'm sorry.
Really, my mother died when I was 10, so I went through. I didn't go through what Kate went through. Kate's 18, and she's much older, more mature, and she has a lot of responsibility on her shoulders. But that whole more time, what would you do to have more time with someone you loved was really, it is what the Goddess Test is about, pretty much. And, yeah. The boy's cute, but he's kind of incidental.
He's not the point of the story.
No, not at all.
I actually kind of want to say something that on a personal level that goes back to what both Lara and what Saundra kind of started off with, and then what Lara was just saying about ways that girls can better themselves. And Saundra was talking about the career we're all lucky enough to be in, and when everybody says like, what was it like when you got the offer for the publishing deal, and what's the first thing you did? And what I tell people, first of all, you should know my mother and I are extremely close. I talk to my mother every single day on the phone. She is one of my best friends on earth. I don't know what I'd do without my mom. She didn't know I wrote. Literally no one except my husband knew that I had been writing for years because I was afraid that if I failed, I didn't want to be that person at the family reunion that like 6 years later everyone was going, so how's that novel coming along? Like if I was going to succeed, then I would tell people. So the first thing I did was tell my mother who almost died because I kept this huge secret from her and I'd never done that like about anything. But then so people were like, well, what does it feel like? And I'd had this conversation with my husband about 3 days after I got the offer for Claire. And I said, I feel so good because I had never had a career that I was passionate about. I floated through jobs. I didn't know what and I said to Eric, I finally have done something that I think my kids will be proud of. And it was so amazing to me to find this place in the world where I felt like I had a self-definition I was proud of and that I had created on my own and that I had really done. And I think, that is a feeling that all girls should get to have and all girls should be striving for. And I think that is something that sort of is in all of our novels, is looking for that self-definition that finally says, yeah, this is what, yes, is coming from here on out. So I think being a YA writer is really amazing just for me. And this is just me on my own personal little riff, but not just the characters in the books, but sometimes it really does it for you as a real person too. So I hope
something slightly related.
Your mic's not on.
Thank you. I was a phone psychic for a long time, and I did do that voice because it's very mysterious. Oh, you got the hanging man. If you have an inverted tower, that's very bad.
There's a medical procedure for that. Oh, I did it! I did it first. We knew one of us was gonna.
It's not Botox, is it?
Yeah.
No, because I said earlier that I only have a high school education, and I grew up on the wrong side of town in the wrong neighborhood. I actually grew up in government housing. Every Friday night we would have helicopters come by, not just like because they happened to fly, they came by to put the spotlights down to chase the corner boys and the hookers off the corner for a little while every Friday night. It made it easier for the police. So that's the kind of neighborhood I grew up in. But my mother was a big believer in reading, and I actually found out recently she has always really loved reading, but she would take us to the library every other day. And like on Saturdays, if I wanted to go to the library, I could go and stay at the library all day long and read. And she said, she told me recently, it was free and they had air conditioning. But so I had always had books. I'd always had my mom taking me to books, and I had very fond memories of like 4th of July at my grandmother's house, and we would have my grandmother, my Aunt Melody, and my mom, and we each had our own lawn chair, we each had a book, and that was how we were celebrating the holidays together. And then when I was 13, I was lucky enough to meet Susan Bettis, who she was actually my best friend's mom, but she was also a women's study and English teacher. And she was very, very, very big into, actually having womanhood rituals. Like my best friend Ashley, for her 13th birthday, instead of just having a 13th birthday, she actually had a ritual to welcome in womanhood, which at the time we thought was really kind of cheesy, but in retrospect, it was amazing because we don't actually have those rituals in our culture, in the American culture very much. I mean, there are plenty of cultures in the world that do still have transition rituals, but like, mainstream American culture, not so much. But Mom Bettis she always gave me books for my birthday, and in every single one of those books, she would write an inscription, which was always, very personal, very cool, and she would sign off, when you publish your novel, I want you to sign yours for me. And I probably have, 100, 150 books that say, when you write a novel, I want you to sign one for me. And it's amazing the difference that if and when make, because Mom Bettis said that over and over and over again, and I didn't I couldn't afford to go to college. I joined the military to try and get the GI Bill.
but I got hurt, and so I didn't have enough money to go to college. I've been a phone psychic. I have been a car salesman. I used to lay up newspaper on the old-fashioned wax boards when you had to print it out and cut it out and actually lay it out. But it never occurred to me that I would not write a book because Mom Bettis always said, when you write a book, I want you to sign it for me. And so if you pick up Shadow Summer over there and flip to the back, Mom Bettis is in there, and so is Ashley. And it is seriously the difference between if and when. The little things. It's not so much about make your daughters read the right magazines, make your daughters do this, make your daughters do that. It's more like make everything possible for your daughters, and believe that everything is when if you really, really want it. Because, I am a poor girl who, grew up in the smack middle of a ghetto on the east side of Indianapolis. I have officially stood in line for government cheese. It really was real. And I am sitting here with you guys up in Michigan with amazing authors, and I'm actually an author. And it's because I had women in my life who said, read these books and when you write a book. So give up on if, really give up on if, because when, believe in the when.
I don't know, maybe we end there, because that's kind of awesome. Great question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, now we have
That's the question.
I like you can tell, look, Rhonda's feet, you guys can't see it. Rhonda's feet are neatly stretched, but they're not sorted by color. Amy's are both stretched and sorted by color. Mine are in a mess, but it's like all our varying forms of OCD and mess. All evident right here in our feet.
I just have to think about rainbows.
I like it. I just looked down the row and
We have a question. What's up?
You want a mic?
oh,
Oh, B.
Oh, I can talk loud now.
Okay.
go, you throw. Your arm has got to be way better than mine.
This is This is Janelle, by the way. We run every Tuesday and Thursday together, and she's awesome.
Yay!
Oh, Laura's awesome.
Ask your question.
Well, sort of building on what Sandra was just saying, do you have somebody or several girls in mind you're writing with? A daughter, daughters, nieces, obviously other mothers or grandparents, but anybody younger you're writing these for?
I have a 9-year-old daughter, and everything that I write, I hope at some point that, whether she actually relates to it or not, that it's at least something that's like, it's a conversation that I can have with my daughter even after I'm gone. And that's really, like, that's kind of my goal, is like, the ancient Egyptians, is like, as long as someone still knows their name, they live on forever. And that's really, it sounds kind of woo-woo, but that's sort of what I'm doing with my book, is like, is this the book that's going to make me live forever? Is this the book that's going to make me live forever? And I have a 9-year-old daughter, and I think about her a lot when I'm writing my girls.
I actually write for, this might sound really weird, but I write for the 12-year-old me in the past, and I write for that girl who needs to hear this and feel this. And I hope, of course I hope it resonates with other girls, but I'm picturing her in my head and here's what you need to know. It's totally gonna be okay, and here are words that you should have, and it's gonna all work out. No. I don't want to forget you, honey.
My daughter's 15. Work! Yeah. I'm sorry. I was supposed to make a joke when somebody's drinking, and I totally just ruin it. Oh, that one's gonna burn. Saundra, she's 15. She's read my books. She read them while I was writing. She helped me brainstorm. She was my inspiration. I try to view all the books that she reads as an opening to a conversation, especially stuff that's really darker, like Ellen Hopkins, stuff that's really, really gritty, but that's what, my daughter's 15. She knew a kid in middle school who got an abortion. She has a friend who's 15 right now who's pregnant, and we're not talking inner city. Our suburbs pretty okay, but I can't stick my head in the sand and pretend like that stuff's not happening. So I don't try to, my stuff's actually really mild. You know, if you've read my books, they're really mild for YA. They're pretty appropriate for younger. And I try to do that for a reason, but I tried to be true to the characters and what I felt was like them. But I wouldn't, you know, everything I write is aimed at trying to have a conversation with her, pretty much.
I specifically, I mean, I hope that eventually my daughter will read my books and like them and be proud of them, like I just said. But I specifically, when I am writing, try very hard not to think about anybody I am related to reading them. Ever.
About my mom. I can write for my daughter.
It makes me really self-conscious, and then I find myself either editing to say a message, or I'm editing to like tone down that, you know, scene that was a little bit hot, or I'm trying to, you know, and I don't like to write that way. It's not, so I'm more like Lara. I'm writing mostly for a sort of nebulous younger me.
Yeah. That's the name of my 15,000.
Is it? Yeah, no. And thinking about your parents while you're writing is like universally a bad idea.
Oh.
That's like thinking about them having sex.
Which I wrote.
Oh, you did.
I did. I don't know if you've read this, but
I should speak into that. My heroine decided for her parents' anniversary she was going to matchmake them because they've kind of been falling apart, you know how people get. She walks in on them. They're on the floor in the bedroom, and she needs therapy after that. So that was actually I laughed the entire time I wrote that scene, and I was thinking about, oh God, if I saw my mom, I think I'd throw up. And that's literally what I thought about. What would it be like to see okay. I can't talk. I'm sorry, Mom, if you're watching this, but I don't want to think about you having sex.
There you go. That's a good way to end.
We have another question, right?
Yes,
back
please,
there.
ask a question.
Somebody wing beats.
This
Please.
is
Yes.
Are your werewolves violent? Do you have are they murderous? Do you have that kind of?
Yes and no. You know, I tried to base all of my werewolf behavior. I did a lot of research into actual gray wolves. So as far as like body language and posture and nonverbal communication and pack behavior, and real wolves are apex predators, just like sharks or tigers or any other. And so yes, there are ritual hunts that the pack participates in, and they are certainly violent toward other animals, which they eat, as are humans. They are not generally violent towards humans. It's not a traditional werewolf story in that sense, I suppose. But you know, there are stories like the man-eating lions of Tsavo, or rogue sharks, like the people who used to that's kind of gone out of vogue. But there used to be a theory that there were man-hunting sharks that had sort of left the vein and gotten a taste for human flesh. But you know, one thing I sort of try to address in the book is people do that too. You know, people are not generally violent toward other human beings, but you do get outliers who are, you know, broken in whatever way and attack other people. So werewolves, you get the occasional cracked werewolf who attacks people, but for the most part, no, they are only violent towards other animals, which they then eat. Or they fight each other sometimes, but you know, again, so do people. We just don't generally have claws and teeth that we pull out.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead. Well, I know young adult has really,
Yay!
young adult, I guess, has really been getting a lot of flack in the media lately, and I know, because I read a lot of those things, but I'm wondering, how are you guys like being proactive against that? I mean, are you out there talking to your readers more,
I mean, we're here today. I mean, we're here straight up
with a tour that is like, hey, look at all of these YA novels talking about, you know, girls and girls issues and you know, women's relationships and friendships, and who has a vampire here at this table?
Although, quite frankly, because I'm the werewolf contingent over here, and the werewolf, you know, but really, God, why wasn't Andrea Kramer here? Because she talks about this way more eloquently than I do. But you know, the paranormal has long been a way to explore humanity and human tendencies in just a sort of grandiose and out of proportion way, and to dismiss the whole of the paranormal genre, vampires included, you know, because one of them got popular is a little bit. I mean, the very first people who saw Titanic when it came out, like 1995, the movie.
I saw that 8 times in
Yeah,
the theater.
thought it was amazing, and then it got too popular, and everybody was like, God, that movie sucks. And it's, you know,
Cried. It was all women crying.
right.
I had a website called Post Titanic Stress Disorder.
Am I saying I think Twilight has a spot-on message for all young girls?
Yeah.
No. Is it, you know, the downfall of modern civilization? No. You know, so I'm sorry, that's a paranormal. But yeah, no, I agree.
No, but I mean, so everybody else says like, all vampires is all vampires. It's really not.
No, it's
all
not.
vampires. There are some vampires, but like seriously, you have a wide variety of authors right here. We don't have any vampires. I would say that probably mine and Christine's books are the darkest books on the table. But you know what? We still don't have like. Nobody's dying in a gutter, or that's a book that I'll write one day, but it's,
Well, one of my best friends, Heidi Arbor, that's what she writes. I mean, if there is not, rape and dismemberment and, horrible, horrible things happening to real people, she can't write it.
But I mean, my joke is like, if there's not a body count, it's not a book. But the thing is that, everybody's like, oh, it's so dark, and there's all the vampires. It's like, so what if it's dark? You know what? Because, like, I told you guys, I grew up on the east side of town. You just heard about a middle schooler that had an abortion. This stuff is actually happening. People have scary home lives, and people have scary childhoods. And you know what? I actually think that teenagers, they read what they're ready for, and they put aside what they're not ready for. Because I can think of many books that I read that, people would have considered inappropriate when I was a teenager, but I was fine with it.
Plan of the Cave Bear.
I was going to say the V.C. Andrews.
Oh,
Hours in the Attic. Why did my mom let me read that?
I know, and you have the old guard. You have the old guard arguing. It's like, when we were children, we didn't have these filthy books. It's like, when we were children, we didn't have YA.
I used
Right.
to
So
we
we
read
went
Stephen
from
King.
I read Harlequin.
Right.
I hid in the bathroom and read my mom's Harlequin. Oh my God, you what? Yeah, my mom didn't talk to me about sex. I learned it by reading.
So it's one of those things. Like, yeah, you can take Ellen Hopkins books out of the store, but you know what? There are still going to be teenagers who end up in prostitution, and there's still going to be teenagers who end up on drugs. And it's and that's the great thing, especially about Lara's books, is that she writes books about especially with Aggie, it's like you can come back from that. I mean, I personally enjoy a book where everything is exploded at the end, but I really do. But it's like, oh, it's so dark. I mean, she's got a pregnant goth girl who's not allowed to be the prom queen. I haven't bought it yet. I'm buying it tonight. The prom queen, and it's like, this happened. She told you this happened, and so these books are here because this stuff happens, and hiding them from your kids, having teachers and librarians hide them from your kids is not going to make it actually go away, but making the books go away might actually take away the tools they have to deal with it. So yes, we get mountains about stuff like this.
But there's the story in the news about the African American girl who had a baby. She had the highest GPA. They wouldn't let her be sole valedictorian, probably because she had a baby.
I'm sorry.
I think she should be given double valedictorian status for having a baby and continuing to do that. I mean, it's not something that, I got pregnant when I was 19. I was a teen mom. I continued to stay in school. I got my bachelor's. I got my master's. I was on welfare for a while. It happens. I would rather my daughter and I would rather other teenagers see the good and the bad of what happens when you have drugs or have sex or drink. They need to see both sides instead of seeing it glamorized like it is in movies. And that's what I think YA brings to the table. And like I said, their conversation. Ellen Hopkins, it's very gritty, but you see exactly, yeah, okay, these things may feel good and they may bring you temporary pleasure, but there's a big cost that happens here. And you can see what happens to realistic people when this happens, and that's important to me. I want my daughter to see that, I want her to be well-rounded enough that when she gets to be that age, she can make her own decisions, but she'll make them smart you know. And if she screws up, and she's gonna screw up, she'll keep on trucking. She'll pick herself back up and keep on going. And she'll see like the pregnant teenager who who has the baby, keeps going to school, gets her high school diploma, goes on and gets her bachelor. You know what? It happens. It can happen. I had 2 kids and I was in school, and you just keep going. That's all you can do. And I think those are the kinds of stories that really empower girls and say, you know, this stuff happens to people and it's scary, and you don't want it to happen to your kid, and odds are something's going to happen to your kid, but you need to empower them to be able to take care of themselves and nurture themselves, pick themselves back up and keep going.
Really? Yeah. You each individually chose to write about young girls, and then you met after writing these books about young girls. You met. How did you meet?
Oh.
How did we meet?
Yeah.
Oh, it was so romantic. She brought me flowers.
Rhonda and Saundra and I were all part of a group of debut novelists whose first novels came out in 2009, and we were called the Debs, which is hilarious because I used to work in the Deb store in the mall. So I would always be like, oh, picturing that store. But so we met in 2009 and did some events together for our debut stuff, and then now we have more books out. And then Aimee we found because she's amazing and is in Michigan, and her book is blowing up. And then Christine.
It's actually kind of funny.
This is funny. This is a funny
It's a funny story. Christine and I actually grew up in the same city, and we probably grew up 20 minutes from each other. Not even. We never met. And Aimee Recount White, who wrote Forget Her Nots, she was one of the 11Zs, which, no, she was a tenor. She's a tenor. So we were the Debs, and then like some of us, our books got bumped, and they started the tenors for the debuts in 2010, and now there's 11Zs, and for next year there's the Apocalypses. Which I thought was so awesome.
Brilliant.
But Aimee Recount White had dropped me a note, and she's like, I'm putting together a signing in Indianapolis at this particular bookstore. Do you want to be in on it? And it's like, yeah, that would be fantastic. And she said, I already spoke to the bookstore owner, and she said that there's another YA author in town named Christine Johnson, but she thinks she might be self-published. And so Aimee went to go look up Christine online, and when she pulled up the website, there was like a virus on it. So I was like, oh yeah, she must be self-published.
That was not my website, by the way.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Is like Christine Johnson is a very common name, and so the website with a virus was actually like an attorney or a real estate agent or something like that. In California, named Christine Johnson. But
Christine Johnson Books.
Yes. So we finally found ChristineJohnsonBooks.com, and we live 8 minutes away from each other.
We do. Amazing.
And so I published a book, and I managed to meet Aimee Recount White because I was in 2009 Debs, and then 2009 Debs created the tenors, and one of the tenors invited me to do the signing with this self-published woman who's actually published very nicely with Simon & Schuster. And it's like and Aimee lives in Washington D.C. and that's how I met like one of my best writing friends who lives 8 minutes from me.
I'm a firm believer that now in the age of the internet, like that whole 6 degrees of separation thing, it cannot be true anymore. It's got to be cut down to like 4.
Kevin Bacon's probably rolling over in his grave.
I don't think he's dead.
I haven't seen him in anything lately, so he's dead to me. Did you guys know they're making a new Footloose, by the way?
Yes.
Wrong.
Zac Efron was briefly attached to it, but then he's not, which makes me actually sad. I like Zac Efron. He's a good character.
I just can't get over the shock of that. Nobody's gonna be. Anyway, that has nothing to do with anything.
Okay, we're gonna throw something at you.
Oh,
maybe.
Okay. I don't know if I'll catch it. You can catch it. I believe in you.
Oh.
So make it a good question.
Yes.
Well,
Ask me a
okay.
question.
Well then, first of all, Lara, happy book birthday. I have a question for you guys, those of you who don't have the paranormal element in their books. Do you find it harder to sell a book, or are you constantly concerned with, this doesn't have a vampire in it, or, something like that, are people actually going to buy this?
Yeah, sales are down for realistic fiction, for sure. It's a paranormal world out there, for sure, for sure, for sure. My agent keeps telling me, I think she means to compliment me, but she keeps telling me, like, it's amazing you got a 2-book deal. So it's a hard world out there for realistic fiction. They say that it's coming back, that the pendulum is going to swing the other way, and I believe them cautiously. But there's still a market. So I mean, there's still, I think good fiction is good fiction, and people, girls wanna read about girls they can relate to, and whether that girl, is in love with a vampire or whether she has a, pregnant goth best friend. I don't think it matters. I think, the market is tough, but it's, I think good stories still will sell.
The same applies to romantic comedy.
Yeah.
You cannot sell romantic comedy now. It is so awful. And I have tried because I am so funny to me. So I have tried, but it is really hard. I mean, I have light paranormal elements in here, but the bulk of it is romantic comedy, and they're so hard to sell because everyone wants dark and angsty and oh my God, does he love me? I don't know. I have to hide in my dark room while he watches me sleep. That kind of thing.
Is there anything specific that you guys are doing to kind of counteract that?
Begging.
There's not a lot you can do to counteract work and force.
I have a contemporary mystery that has no paranormal elements in it, and what's funny is that I had to get a new agent, and I sent this out, and I was like, wow, I really hope that somebody will take me because, it wasn't a paranormal. I'm sorry.
It wasn't a paranormal novel, and I was really excited because the few agents that I did very fortunately because other authors and they can say, hey, this is my friend Saundra, she doesn't totally suck, and so you get to kind of jump to the front of the line. And they all offered, and then I got really excited because it's like, wow, if 4 agents want this, that means they think they can sell it. And 18 months later, that book is still not sold. I've sold multiple paranormals since then. But that contemporary mystery is not going anywhere. It is hard out there for a.
But I also think
a real girl. There you go.
You can't predict a trend. So writing to a trend is always a bad idea. By the time you get your novel finished and polished and ready to go out, the ship will have sailed.
Yeah. See, the books that are trending now, they sold 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So everybody's like, dystopian is hot right this minute. It's like, well, actually, dystopian was hot 2 years ago. And I heard witches was the next thing.
Mermaids for a while.
Yeah, mermaids.
Zombies have
Zombies had
mermaids were. That's because Stephanie Meyer said I'm writing a mermaid novel, and then she set it aside, and then I think mermaids were not anything again. And she just recently said that she's working on science fiction, so that's probably the
science fiction.
Yeah,
my next novel is sci-fi.
So one thing I just want to say too really quickly, and then maybe we can sign some books, is that everything with other authors really helps. I think for those of us who are like strictly mid-list, like you can go out there and you can sign up and go to bookstores, even awesome ones like Nicola's, and like you'll be lucky if you get 3 people. So it's really good to band together with other amazing authors who can support each other, even if our books aren't like totally similar. We can find an overarching theme like girl empowerment. Yeah. Okay. Let's find books.